This special edition of Democracy Works, the race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey, has been made possible by Barnabas Health, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey's credit unions, banking you can trust, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, turn a dream into a degree, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by TD Bank. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey, NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey, and by Politicker NJ.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Welcome to a very special edition of Democracy Works, the race for the United States Senate 2013. I'm Steve Adubato. My colleague, Raphael P-Roman on New Jersey Capital Report, and I sat down and talked to the Republican candidate for the United States Senate, Steve Lonegan, just a few days ago. This evening, on September the 4th, we sit down with Cory Booker, the mayor of Newark. My colleague, Raphael P-Roman, is on assignment tonight, so it is my honor, my pleasure to be going one-on-one with the mayor of Newark and the Democratic candidate for the United States Senate, Cory Booker. Mayor, welcome. We are in your house.
Yes.
In your neighborhood,
Yes.
in your campaign headquarters in Newark.
Right, but I would also say this is your house because you are a Newarker and you're part of the city. And we've been having these conversations since I was a city councilman. So it's good to be with you again.
Yeah, give folks a sense. You got into politics at what age and why?
You know, my dream when I was in law school was to be the next Jeffrey Canada. I wanted to start a great nonprofit here in Newark.
Jeffrey Canada, who transformed education.
Yeah, runs the Harlem Children's Zone, an amazing nonprofit empowering kids in Harlem. He was really the model, and I decided to move on to Martin Luther King Boulevard in Newark in the section at that time in the mid-90s that had really one of the worst sort of areas of crime and violence in our city. It's just thinking I could do organizing, and that's how I did. Started representing people who couldn't afford lawyers and working with tenant organizers, but very quickly, people told me that if you really want to make change in this city, you should get involved in politics. There's a lot of problems with City Hall. And so what I found out was that life is not about a position, it's about purpose. And if my purpose is X, you should find the best way to make a change in that way. And so that was 1998. I ran for city council and won on a very narrow election with a real sort of legend of the Central Ward, a guy who'd been in office for 4 terms and was more than twice my age. But we were able to win a narrow election in the Central Ward. And then 4 years later, I ran and lost. And
to Sharp James.
To Sharp James.
You learned a lot.
I learned a lot, and absolutely. And it was, great 4 years as a councilman, a great campaign contest. 4 years later, I came back and I became mayor in 2006.
It's interesting, your evolution politically. I want to try you out on something.
Sure.
People have been talking about your political career and the next office for a long time. Do you remember what you said about the U.S. Senate in 2010? And
oh, we don't even need to read it.
what did you say about the job then? And then what has changed as to how you view the job and its possibilities today?
In 2010, I was just coming off from 4 years. We had driven down crime. We had created the largest parks expansion in our city. Companies now were really starting to flow into Newark. And so much was going good. I was very hands-on, and I thought to myself, the Senate, just sitting in boring, start discussing
Senate
rules of procedure.
would be nauseating.
Right, that terrible N-word in my life.
What happened?
I think that I started talking to United States senators and people I trusted. There was a few people that got elected that I actually knew as friends before they got elected. And so the more I talked to people, from Bill Bradley, who's been a mentor of mine for a long time, to senators like Bennett and Coons and others, the more they disabused me of not all, but some of my concerns, but more than that, showed me why I could be particularly impactful in that body at a time right now where we seem to be so undermined by partisan gridlock. And somebody with my different set of experiences, there's only been 20 people in the history of the United States that have ever gone from being a mayor directly into the United States Senate.
That's it?
That's it. And so the whole 85% of Americans live in cities or in their suburbs. So much of in fact, the Brookings Institution has been writing about this a lot recently, about so many of the American issues look through that lens, expand competitiveness, improve education. A lot of these are the experiences that mayors have. And so I thought that a lot of the things that I know are critically important, the experiences I have in the state of New Jersey of working with people very well, in fact, on both sides of the political aisle, not being a prisoner of partisanship, but being passionate about progress and pragmatism, that's helped us create the kind of economic boom we're having in New York. So all of those things, talking to people, researching, I did a lot of due diligence, suddenly made me going from saying I would not really want to do that to being a really big fan.
But in the Senate, in Congress, there are incredibly difficult votes that one has to cast, right? Positions one has to take, or not, but on critical issues. It's no secret, as people are watching this program, we're actually doing this interview on September the 4th. The election will be on the 16th of October. Things will change from the evening that we are doing this program in Syria. The world may change in so many ways. Today, in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, at the behest of, at the imploring of, who you hope to be your colleague, Bob Menendez, the chair of that committee voted to pass out a resolution that supports President Obama's call for a limited but very strategic airstrike. Unless I read it wrong, you said today, so far, it is not the right time for you to speak out on that issue. It may be at a later point, but as we do the program today, is that a fact that you're not prepared to make a statement on your position on whether we, in fact, should move on Syria, given what we know about chemical weapons and its use by the Assad regime?
No, that's not the way I would phrase it at all. Look, I'm very skeptical about using American force and military in an intervention here.
Even airstrike?
Airstrike as well. I'm very skeptical of that. And there's a lot the president would have to do to convince me to support that action. And I'm not privy, obviously, to the kind of confidential Senate briefings. And obviously, I'd like to leave that door open because I think that's the responsible thing to do.
But you're open.
I am not that open, but I will always be open to evidence. I will always be open to facts. I will not be a slave to partisanship or to sort of a knee-jerk reactions. I'm going to always be in a very sobered way. But let's just talk about why this is an issue that we all should be skeptical about. Number one, you have a situation where there's no clear side. Obviously, what Assad is doing is horrendous. It's grievous. It's unacceptable.
1,500 civilians, potentially 400 children killed by chemical weapons. If in fact that's true.
Yeah, but let's even go before that. Over 1 million people, 1 million human beings displaced from that country because of this conflict, outside of the country and within the country. So there were people being slaughtered by the Assad regime, not using chemical weapons, but I'm sorry, these are still unacceptable behavior.
For political opposition.
For being political opposition, for things that we take for granted in this country. But the problem is opposition also is made up of people that we don't necessarily want to ever see lead that country, like Al-Qaeda and other terrorist influenced individuals. And so this makes it very difficult to say, well, what is the right tact here? Number one, you can't take out their chemical weapon capability. You can't do that from airstrikes, because if you do it from airstrikes, you have the potential of causing a worse chemical disaster than you're trying to avert happening again. Number two, if you go after the Assad regime, and say you take out Assad, I mean, some people want to say, let's just get rid of this horrendous dictator. You don't have any way of saying that what comes after that is going to necessarily be better or not be involved in doing the same kind of state-sponsored terrorism that we're seeing in countries like Iran. So this is a far more complicated issue than simply saying, hey, let's bomb some folks.
So excuse me, Mayor, if the president said, Cory, I need you on this, you'd say?
Look, my loyalty is to the people of the state of New Jersey. If they elect me there, they're not electing me to be a partisan go-along guy. They're electing me there to do what I believe is right, what my values, my core thinks is best for our state and for our nation.
And right now you're not convinced?
I'm not convinced. I'm still skeptical, and I would have to be. And again, it is a little irresponsible from a campaign position when I could potentially, not in a matter of next year, I could potentially be a United States Senator in a matter of weeks. A little premature for me to be mouthing off about a position without all the evidence before
Is
me.
Lonigan somehow, from your point of view, from that argument, is Steve Lonigan irresponsible from your point of view, saying A, that he's absolutely against the strike, and B, that you are, in fact, waiting for the Obama campaign, the Obama White House to tell you what to do?
No, first of all, again, it's not about President Obama telling me what to do. It's about being the kind of senator in a very smart, prudent, pragmatic fashion, evaluates the evidence and decide what's best to do. I won't characterize my opponent because this campaign already seems to be too much about individuals. But I'd rather talk about vision, values, plan, strategy. How are we going to bring this country together? How are we going to bring Washington together? How are we going to bring our state together to advance? Because I know from my experiences in Newark that when we were able to bring uncommon coalitions together, we created uncommon progress. And that's what we've got to focus on in this campaign. And already I'm seeing things that are too much about people, personalities, than they are about the larger issues that I think New Jerseyans really want to understand. How are we going to expand our economy? How are we going to improve our education, make higher education more affordable? How are we going to deal with the unfinished business of cleaning up from Sandy? So many of these issues, improving access to health care, making health care more affordable. These are the things that we really need to be talking about.
All true. But Mayor, you know better than anyone else that a big part of the reason why you're so far ahead in this race, the reason why you blew away your primary opponents, beyond the issues, is personality. I'm not telling you anything you
It's
don't
not
know.
the great haircut, which you should try.
Beyond the great haircut, I may have to go that way one day. I'm not convinced of what's there, but here's the thing. How much of who you are publicly and I'm not going to say what you stand for publicly, but the way you communicate publicly is the 1.4 million Twitter followers, is the way you interact with folks who most of us don't get to interact with, be it Oprah or Clooney or whomever. How much of who you are in terms of your public policy positions being communicated through those mediums is who you are?
Look, I was elected at a tough time in Newark when things were going in the wrong direction. We were losing population, losing businesses, crime was on the rise.
Corruption in the city administration.
All of these things were happening. And now, 7+ years later, our population is growing for the first time in 60 years. At the end of last year, 1/3 of all the development in New Jersey, we're only 3% of the state population in Newark, but 1/3 of all the economic development, commercial multifamily in the entire state was going on in Newark,
Tough folks
New
are
Jersey.
going on in the park right next door.
Yeah, well, you've got we have this amazing park expansion going on, the biggest parks expansion in our city in a century. The military park right next door from the building we're doing. Anybody, and this is what I've been hearing, because people in New Jersey are a lot more sophisticated than we often give them credit for. They're not going to be distracted by a great a shining personality. What I'm hearing up and down the state is people who can tell me what they see different in the city of Newark. Tell me that, hey, Newark's still got a lot of work to do, but we see the progress under difficult conditions, in the worst economy of our lifetime, under the most hostile politics, which you know as well as I do in the city. You were able to, under those difficult, challenging conditions, to take Newark on an entirely new pathway with other people, not doing it just because of you, but bringing people together to achieve uncommon results. And so, and doing it, as we were talking earlier, before camera, a third less police officers.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about the third less police officers, 500 fewer.
Yeah.
But as we do this program,
right.
You were talking about some of the most violent murders that have happened literally in the last few days, and the impact that has on the city, on you as a mayor, as a candidate, and the struggle you have trying to balance all that.
It is a daily fight, every single day, to drive down the rate of violence. So as we speak...
How much can a mayor do? How much have you been able to do?
Well, this is one of the reasons why we need fighters in Trenton, fighters in the United States Senate, because one of the things hurting mayors all across the state right now is all of us in the big cities in New Jersey have lost so much support to maintain our police forces.
What does that mean, losing a lot of support?
You know, we've seen Trenton lose...
You mean funding?
Funding, a funding base, programs in Washington that Bill Clinton used to brag about, COPS programs, things like that, used to drive support to our cities, which, by the way, creates a bigger economy in New Jersey, I gave you the data point that I asked some of the people at our local hospital emergency room. I said, one gunshot wound, what's it costing? Because most of the people who get murdered in Newark, if you're a murder victim, you have between an 80-90% chance that you've been arrested before an average of 10 times. So these are folks that are in this game constantly. And so what we ask them is that their folks aren't showing up with health insurance. We're paying for their gunshot wound. And when I had an emergency room doctor say to me about $250,000, we would rather pay more on the back end than preventing that shooting from happening in the first time.
But preventing it. Talk to folks who are considering you as a candidate for the United States Senate in places like Trenton, Atlantic City, Elizabeth, Jersey City, other urban areas, right, where murder rates are way higher than they should be. How could you prevent it?
Well, first of all, as a mayor, we have a third less police officers, and during the time I've been here, a 27% reduction in shootings. Under the worst economy, we were losing streams of funding. And so that's a very important statistic. But more important than that is knowing what you can do from Washington to empower people in our communities.
Such as?
Well, first of all, I think that there's something folks should know is a lot of my job, and this goes back to you talking about celebrities and things like this,
yeah.
A lot of my job has not simply been using my statutory power to make change. It's seeing the challenges in Newark and saying, by any means necessary, we're going to drive down crime, expand educational opportunities, build parks.
Is that where the Facebook money comes from?
Build parks. But put this Facebook money aside. In addition to that,
that's an example.
$300 million worth of new philanthropy to our cities, that working with people across the aisle, like Manhattan Institute, a right-leaning think tank, to run prisoner reentry programs in Newark that have helped to take guys coming home from prison and drive down their recidivism rates. We have small programs in Newark that have saved New Jersey taxpayers, because our prison system, funded by the state, all of us taxpayers, we've saved millions of dollars just by keeping people who leave jail out of jail, empowering them to contribute to our economy. Thinking of creative things. We're now New Jersey's largest urban agriculture city with urban farms. We're actually employing people coming home from prison, putting them to work on farms, creating food for food deserts, creating educational programs for kids. There is so much creativity, and I don't care if a person is famous or not. I'll go anywhere, meet with anybody if it means bringing resources back to the state of New Jersey.
How does that translate to the United States Senate?
That's the beautiful question. I will be fighting hard in Washington from day one on issues that are important to our state. But the other thing I know I can do, and I've talked to people around the state, I've talked to the Camden's mayor, I met with their police department already.
Dana
Red, when I was down there campaigning, I said, hey, what if we started just like we did in Newark, a police foundation? What's a police foundation done in Newark? We've been able to take more guns off the street, increase the guns we're taking off the street by a tip line that we set up through a foundation raising private money to do it. How? If you think that I'm carrying an illegal gun, key illegal, you think I'm carrying an illegal weapon, call a tip line, get half of a code. Don't give anything, don't give your name, just information about getting the gun. Call back. We've done it as quickly as 6 minutes. If we made the arrest and gotten the illegal gun, you're going to get another 4 digits and you can go to ATM and get $1,000. Now, that's a lot of money. And the reality is it actually saves us more money by getting a gun off the street, stopping shooting, stopping violence. But why doesn't more places in New Jersey have that?
You're saying federal policy?
I'm saying,
out of the Senate instead of city by city, mayor by mayor?
I'm saying this is an everyday fight. That's the way I do, hands-on. I will be in the Senate fighting the good fight. But when I'm back in New Jersey, I will be doing creative things to spread the innovations that have worked in Newark, increasing the amount of money we've been able to, from our benchmark year through our tax centers, double the amount of earned income tax credit we're bringing back to working, struggling families in New Jersey, in Newark. Millions of dollars, saving them millions of dollars and even just tax filings. That's something we set up by bringing people together. And that's the creativity that I think we need in politics, which is a senator that says, my job is to empower people, jobs, education, healthcare. I'm going to do it just like I did it as mayor in the most innovative fashions I can find, from creative ways to make a difference down in Washington. But when I'm here to help you, not just to talk to you or preach to you or tell you I'm fighting. I want to get in the trenches with people to solve problems in New Jersey towns.
Cory, you're talking about very substantive issues. And we'll get back to health care, so-called Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act in just a moment. But some might have thought of this as a diversion.
Right.
But I'm not sure it was. It was quite revealing on a lot of levels, for a lot of people, for a lot of reasons. I'm not sure whether it was more revealing for Mr. Lonigan than it was for you. I'm not sure. When you made this statement, By the way, where did you make this statement about your sexuality that got so much attention?
I think it was a Washington Post interview.
Okay, Washington Post.
Right.
And for people who think I'm gay, some part of me thinks it's wonderful because I want to challenge people on their homophobia. I love seeing on Twitter when someone says I'm gay, and I say, what does it matter if I am? So be it. I hope you are not voting for me because you are making the presumption that I'm straight. And so that's out there. And Lonergan turns around and he
Such a ridiculous statement.
he says, well,
I'm a guy's guy.
I'm a guy's guy.
I think a guy should be a guy or something
and he
like
says,
that.
he gives Cory Booker, his fetish is that sometimes he goes out 3 o'clock in the morning and gets a pedicure, whatever, and then some of us who also do that, I guess we have to disclose that. Maybe not 3 in the morning, but
Right.
he says, well, my fetish is whiskey and cigars, and I'm a guy, and that's the way.
I think a guy should be a guy. In other words, what he
Okay,
was
so
doing,
what do you think he meant by that?
I think he was.
And what are the implications?
Well, I think that it was the same kind of bigoted stuff that gays and lesbians in New Jersey and in America face. That you're gay and you're a man, so therefore you're not a real man. I'm a real man. I played football. I went to Stanford. That's ridiculous.
No, not him. You. You did that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying to you is that kind of pig-headed, backwards thinking is what we don't need in New Jersey. What we need is leaders who elevate all of us, who understand that the quintessential American ideal, that we're all equal, that we're interdependent, that your success is my success. If your kid becomes a genius who starts a company, hey, my kid might be able to be a manager in that company. If your kid becomes the best teacher ever, they're going to empower my grandkids one day.
You don't regret saying that?
I don't regret at all saying that.
Then when people heard about it and you made it clear, hey, wait a minute, time out. Not that it matters, but you made it clear to people that you did in fact play sports.
No, I didn't. That was Tom. That was Tom. A friend of mine, wrote about that. Playing sports has nothing to do. There are gay guys who've been in the NFL.
Of course.
Right.
But my point is that not a diversion from what really matters? Even having a discussion about what a guy is.
And that's why I think it is a diversion, except for the fact that when it comes to issues of gender equality, issues of religious equality, racial equality, which your family, remember this, your dad stepped out to support a black mayor of the city, was called unbelievable names, rocks at his windows, that we need to understand that should be America's past, not America's future. When I became mayor, I said it's unacceptable to me that gay and lesbian people in my city and my state are treated like second-class citizens under the law. We were the first time in Newark's history that we raised the pride flag, that we created a gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender commission to study these issues. How can we better empower this community to deal with the violence against gay and lesbian youth in this?
That's a real issue.
It is a real issue. And so what I want to have is whatever my leaders I vote for, because I don't want them perpetuating stereotypes that in many ways give permission to not just bigots but haters. Who perpetrate this kind of discrimination.
You think Lonergan did that?
I think that when you say a statement, you should be sophisticated enough to know that when you say a statement, I'm not gay, I like being if I'm a guy, you should be a guy. What are you saying about gay men? That they're not equals? That they're not real men? That is substantive. But what's even more than this is we have to make a decision what we're going to tolerate in our politics in New Jersey. We've seen this around the country before, where people make comments, racial comments, gender comments about people's religion. We've seen that before. New Jersey...
He didn't take it back either.
No, well, that's okay. But
No, my point is, he didn't say I was misquoted.
Oh.
He didn't...
No.
I'll leave it at that.
But my point is, we are a state that's profoundly, wonderfully diverse. I grew up in a town with Italians, Indians, Irish... Harrington Park. And the great thing about it is we were together in the football locker room. We're all sweating, working for the same common goal. That analogy of sports is actually a good one in what makes America better, when we're all pulling in the same direction, working in the same direction.
I'm going to give you a minute and a half. That's all we have left.
Okay.
By the way, folks, the election is on the 16th of October. It's an odd date. It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
It's not even a Wednesday, right? Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
It's a Wednesday. 90 seconds or less.
Yes.
Why you?
Because I've got a track record of doing what Washington needs. We haven't solved all the problems in Newark, but heck, we've made a hell of a lot of progress here. Bringing people together, working with a Republican governor, myself, working with people on all sides of the political aisle, business, unions, bringing people together to produce quantifiable, measurable, visible results. We don't need more partisanship. We don't need more extremism in Washington. We need people who can sit around a table and work together. We don't need people to say, hey, we don't need Sandy money. Hey, we don't need government getting involved in this. We need people that understand that fundamentally what we need to do is solve problems, expand our economy, get more jobs, do what's necessary.
Too much partisanship.
Too much partisanship.
And you have no problem working with Christie on certain issues.
No, look, I've been touched today about violence issues in Newark. When we need to, we pull up chairs, sit together, and created a relationship. You're not seeing that in Washington.
And disagree on other issues.
But you shouldn't focus so much on your disagreements when you can find common ground and do good for people. When I bragged about all the development going on in Newark, I don't take full credit for that. If I didn't have a governor that was willing to work with me, if I didn't have state legislators like Sweeney and Buono and others who, even though they don't represent my city, were willing to get together with me to make things happen. That's what we need in Washington. It's a philosophy, it's an ideal, it's a quintessential thought about America, which says e pluribus unum, that we're better when we're together.
Yeah. Mayor, I want to thank you for inviting us into your campaign headquarters. I know you have a busy schedule, and we appreciate your time. We wish you all luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to remind folks that the election is, in fact, on Wednesday, not Tuesday, but Wednesday, October the 16th, the race for the United States Senate with Steve Lonigan and the Democratic candidate, Cory Booker, who was good enough to sit with us tonight. For my colleague, Rafael Piroman, who is in fact on assignment, as I said, I want to remind folks that democracy is in fact not a spectator sport. So make sure you get out there and vote on Wednesday, October the 16th, the race for the United States Senate. I'm Steve Adubato. See you next time.
This special edition of Democracy Works, The Race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey, is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey's Credit Unions, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by TD Bank. This special edition of Democracy Works, The Race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.